Good evening, everyone. A commercial that I remember from childhood involves a lady driving a car in bad weather, and you see like the thunder and the lightning. Now, granted, this was in the 90s, so I think now the special effects would be seen as comical, but they were trying hard. Say there's this lady driving a car. I think it was like a 97, 98 Ford Taurus. It looked like it. She's driving through the rain, and she's like, there's like a downed tree, and she takes another road, and she finally makes it to the house that's like framed, by the camera. She knocks on the door, and there's a little old lady there, opens the door, and is so grateful to see her. And the tagline from the voiceover is "Beata nurses answering the call," implying that these visiting nurses would do anything to make sure that their charges are taken care of. Okay. In our parsha, we also have individuals who are answering the call. Names that don't come up so often in Jewish nomenclature. You got, your Abrahams, you got your Izzies for Yitzchak, Isaac, you got your Isaiahs. Okay, not as common. I actually knew a guy when I went to Smicha, his name was Isaiah. I don't know why he didn't go Yeshayahu, but okay, whatever. We all knew how to say Hebrew over there. Anyway, so you got your Moses you got your Aarons, you got the whole shebang. Names that don't come up often are Eldad and Medad. So who are Eldad and Medad? Well, let's back up the truck a little bit. Moshe Rabbeinu in our Parashat Beha'alotcha complains to Hashem. He says, the people are kvetching. They're driving me crazy. I don't get any vacation. I don't get to go to Florida. I don't get to go to Arizona. I'm old. At that point, he was over 80. I want to retire already. You brought me out of retirement, okay? But it's enough already. Okay, I don't think Moshe sounded exactly like that. I highly doubt he had a New York twang on. I don't even know if he had a southern twang on his voice, or I don't think he really had the diction of Los Angeles either. My wife told me that they have this thing, newscasters around the country are trying to speak like they're from Los Angeles, because apparently it's a crisp diction or something. I don't know if that's true or not, but I listened to my wife. That's what my grandfather of blessed memory told me to do, and he lived a long life, so I'm going to try to copy him. Anyway, and by the way, if you can't tell I'm exhausted, I am, because thank God we had a kid, and she's staying up all the whole night. So please pardon the more flowingness of what's going on over here. Anyway, close multiple parentheses. So Hashem says, fine, gather 70 elders, and we're going to have them support you. Look later in the parsha, you'll see the description. It's very beautiful. It's very moving how they all gather around the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting. They gather around one of the holiest parts of the Jewish camp, and I'm not going to do it justice, so you should check it out yourselves. Our rabbis tell us that there were supposed to be 70 individuals. They selected 72 gentlemen, 72 holy Jewish wise men, to serve as this council, which would then become the Sanhedrin, the high Jewish court. The selection of 72 was because some of the tribes, mathematically, two of them would have one less representative than anybody else, than any other tribes. So in order to make the process clear that this was divinely ordained and divinely inspired, they drew lots. Eldad and Medad did not show up to the ceremony. They were told, meet at this and this location, and they said, look, we're not holy enough. It's not really our jam. And alternatively, another perspective is that, we don't want to embarrass anybody. So ostensibly, only 70 people are going to be picked. So if only 70 people show up, those 70 people are going to be picked, and we won't embarrass anyone by having other people be excluded because we're showing up. They didn't come in their humility and their desire to not embarrass someone else. That would be a meaningful enough lesson if we just stopped there. But it goes further. The Torah tells us that Eldad and Medad end up prophesying in the camp. These 70 elders who were selected got the spirit of prophecy. So it's not exactly clear what happened to the two extras, so to speak, who were the duds, or the extra, whereas Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. We're not going to go into what they were prophesying or what Yehoshua, Moshe's prime disciples' reaction to it is. There's all meaningful discussions. But I just want to focus on Eldad and Medad. What do we learn from the fact that they didn't show up, and they're not blamed for not doing so? They had positive intentions in not going to this active spiritual designation, let's call it. But okay, so they didn't come. Why are we told about this event? And I think the lesson for us is as follows. There's nothing wrong with being humble. There's nothing wrong with waiting for Hashem's signal that we are ready as individuals or as a community to do certain things, where that X or Y is God's will, is Ratzon Hashem. There's no concept in Judaism of trying to make it work at the expense of waiting for Hashem's signal to come through. We're not expected to all be prophets. We're not expected to create a spiritual destiny in a way that Hashem follows our lead alone. We have a concept of midah koneged midah, that divine blessing and justice is given out commensurate with a person's respective spiritual stature. And Hashem interacts with the person as the person interacts with the Torah and with the mitzvahs and with Hashem. So we are active, we do create on our own, so to speak. But every one of us has a mission, has a role, has a destiny that we need to be on the lookout for. We need to have our antenna raised. We need to be listening for that kol d'mamadaka, that soft voice that Hashem tells the prophets that he communicates to the world with. Because if we'll listen quietly, we'll hear it, we'll intuit what Hashem is telling us, and we can then live life in congruence with that destiny. Eldad and Medad listened to that voice. They listened to the prophecy that Hashem was giving them. Because as Maimonides, as the Rambam points out, a prophet who stifles his message, who doesn't share the message that Hashem has, such a person is liable to the death penalty. Such a person has forfeited their spiritual essence because they've denied the will of God. Now, let's be fair. Someone who's on that level of prophecy is a very, very holy person. We're not necessarily talking about each and every one of us to that level of the death penalty should we fail to heed a divine message. I mean, let's face it. The essence of prophecy is the equivalent of getting an email to your phone with God saying, tell the Jewish people the following, signed God. There was no confusion that you had a prophecy. For us, it's a little more hidden. There's the concept of tzimtzum, of Hashem restricting himself, of hiding himself so that we don't have that clarity. But when that clarity comes, when Hashem has made it clear to us what he wants us to do, we need to act like Eldad and Medad and act accordingly. Some people, it's a message that Hashem wants them to use their wealth to donate to schools of Jewish learning, to donate to Jewish community initiatives, such as the mikveh, such as expanding school buildings, such as making sure that the shul budgets are well funded, and so on and so forth. So it could be this person who has the means being inspired to say, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. The support that I claim to be giving and the lip service that I'm paying to community organizations, I'm going to actually put up. It's taking that inspiration, it's taking that divine given knowledge and doing something with it. The lesson, I believe, from Eldad and Medad is that when we get the message, when we get the signal to go, that's the point when we should make it happen. That's the point where we should fulfill God's mandate to each one of us. If we're being honest with ourselves, we'll know what that is. And for each one of us, it's going to be different. But be like Eldad and Medad and the Be'ada nurses and answer the call. Have a great week.